MTV officially shut down on New Year's Eve, ending its final broadcast the same way it began, with video killed the radio star by the Buggles. It sounds poetic, it sounds final, it sounds like the end of an era. But here's the thing. It's New Year's Day 2026 and MTV is still here. The brand didn't vanish overnight. What people are reacting to isn't a shutdown. It's something deeper. It's the realization that the MTV we grew up with, the one that changed everything, already ended a long time ago. To understand why this rumor even feels believable, you have to go back to what MTV was when it launched. Not the logo, not the channel number, the idea. MTV wasn't just another network. It wasn't even just about music, it was a cultural reset. Before MTV, music lived on the radio, on vinyl, on cassette tapes, maybe in concert if you were lucky. You heard artists, but you didn't really see them. Your imagination filled in the gaps. MTV changed that forever. When MTV went live in 1981, it did something radical. It said music wasn't just something you listened to anymore, music was something you watched. That seems obvious now, but back then it was revolutionary. Songs suddenly had faces, styles, fashion, attitude, movement. Artists weren't just voices, they were characters in your life, they were visual storytellers. And for young people, that was electric. MTV spoke directly to youth in a way almost no other media had before. It didn't talk down to you, it didn't try to explain itself. It just showed up and said, "This is yours." The editing was fast, the graphics were loud, the tone was rebellious without even trying. MTV felt like it belonged to the kids in their bedrooms, watching late at night, turning the volume down so their parents wouldn't hear. For my generation, MTV wasn't background noise, it was a companion. You didn't just put it on, you lived with it. It told you what was cool before anyone else did. It introduced you to music you never would have found on your local radio station. It exposed you to different cultures, different styles, different ideas. It made the world feel bigger, even if you never left your hometown. MTV also democratized fame in a way that hadn't existed before. You didn't have to fit the old mold. You didn't have to sound like everyone else. If you had a look, an attitude, a story, MTV could turn you into a star. It rewarded originality. It rewarded weirdness. It rewarded bold choices. That's why artists who might have been ignored in earlier eras suddenly exploded into mainstream culture. But MTV wasn't just about the artists, it was about identity. Youth culture finally had a mirror. Fashion trends didn't come from magazines anymore, they came from music videos. Hair, clothes, slang, dance moves, even confidence. MTV shaped all of it. You didn't just watch MTV, you absorbed it. It became part of how you figured out who you were. And then there were the VJs. That might sound like a small thing now, but it wasn't. The VJs made MTV feel human. They weren't polished news anchors. They felt like cool older friends who lived inside your television. They talked the way you talked. They reacted the way you reacted. They made the channel feel alive, spontaneous, unpredictable. MTV also gave youth permission to care deeply about culture, to argue about bands, to obsess over videos, to feel like music mattered. It validated passion, it validated taste. It told young people that what they loved wasn't trivial, it was important. Over time, MTV evolved. Reality television came in, music videos moved out of constant rotation. The internet changed how we discover music. Streaming replaced waiting, algorithms replaced anticipation, and slowly, the role MTV once played faded. Not because it failed, but because the world changed around it. That's why the shutdown rumor hit so hard, because emotionally, people weren't reacting to a channel going dark. They were reacting to the final acknowledgement that something irreplaceable already passed. MTV wasn't just a network, it was a moment in time when youth culture finally had a megaphone, a visual language, and a place to belong. MTV taught an entire generation how to see music. It taught us how to connect sound with identity. It showed us that culture moves fast, and if you blink, you miss it. It created shared experiences before social media existed. Millions of people watching the same video at the same time, talking about it the next day, feeling connected without realizing it. So, no, MTV didn't shut down on New Year's Eve. But the version of MTV that changed everything, the one that meant something personal, the one that felt like it was ours, that era already ended. And maybe that's okay because its real legacy isn't a broadcast schedule or a logo. It's the way it reshaped youth culture forever. MTV proved that young people weren't just consumers, they were creators, trendsetters, storytellers. And once that door opened, It never fully closed again. That's why people are still talking about it. That's why the rumor spread so fast. And that's why, even in 2026, MTV still matters, not as a channel, but as a cultural earthquake that changed how an entire generation saw itself.